Good evening, Cheeseheads. Welcome to the Cheese Room podcast, Euros edition. You're joining me live from the Cave of Man, the Tottenham memorabilia behind me this evening. I've managed to decamp my setup and get busy down here. I think my partner is more than happy with that because it means that I'm not smashing around the house late at night, and that's I'm not going to go into that. Joining me tonight is HG. How you doing, HG?
I'm doing really well, thank you. It's good to be on the show again.
Well, it is lovely to have you on, as it is every day. I feel like I see more of you than my significant other actually at the moment, because we are doing this every evening. And do get involved if you're watching for the first time. We are streaming tonight on Facebook and on YouTube, and the reason for that is we want to give the Facebook people, the beautiful people that follow the Cheese Room podcast on Facebook, an insight as to what goes on over onto our YouTube channel. So if you like what you see, if you want to watch along with the show, drop us comments. We will get to them during the show and try and cover today's football and also address any Spurs news as well. If you like what you see, do head over to our YouTube channel and please do like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us grow, and it is going from strength to strength. Also, if you're watching this on catch-up, welcome. We will try and address all the points you may have raised if you could be bothered to watch along live. HG, football today. The feast of football, as they're calling it at the Euros, continues. We've got 3 games today. The first of which was obviously the Scottish. I mean, I had a bit of hate mail, I've got to be honest, after my slight rant about the Scots last night. I don't dislike Scotland, it's lovely, but the fans do sort of go on about what happened 20 years ago a bit too much for my liking. But they won't be going on about today much in 20 years' time, will they, HG? Because they lost 2-0 to Czech Republic, 2 goals from Štěch. What did you think of the game? Did you watch it? Did you watch all of it or catch some of it?
No, I did watch the whole thing. As I said last night on the show, I'm able to finish work pretty early so I can get to a pub and watch the game. So I did that this afternoon. And to be honest, I don't think Scotland were that much worse than the Czech Republic. I think they're both pretty workmanlike teams, but the Czech have a goal scorer, a proper, proven quality goal scorer. And the 2 goals he got today were great examples of that. The first was a lovely header into the side of the goal. I mean, just right in the corner. And then, of course, the second, I'm sure we've all seen it, but it was Harry Kane-esque. It was a beautiful, beautiful finish. So, yeah, the Czechs are now top of the group. And but yeah, for Scotland, it's weird because Scotland really didn't play badly at all. They've got a couple of players that seem a bit like the Scotland of old, tall and not much else, kind of lugs. But obviously with Robertson's a quality player, they do have decent ideas, and on another day they could have scored goals themselves. I think the Czechs blocked a lot of shots. There were a couple of good chances for Scotland towards the end, but I think the second goal really killed it as a contest. I don't think Scotland ever really thought that they were going to get back into it, and not the best way for them to return to the highest level of international football. First time in 23 years now, I think.
Yeah, I saw the sort of fan zones absolutely rammed full. People in sort of, tartan kilts and with ginger wigs going off left, right and centre. We Jimmy Cranky, what we're going to do to the Czech Republic. And then they went and lost. So, limited sympathy from me on that. I just hope they lose on Friday. That would be the icing on the cake. But I want to talk about that second goal. Talk me through it, HG, because that was different gravy, wasn't it? We've seen Kane do something similar, but that was in a pre-season friendly. I mean, and not from the angle and the curl on it. What on earth happened? What happened?
It was one of those kind of pot shots from the Scottish defender who was coming forward. It bounced, I think, off Thomas Souček. So I saw that West Ham were trying to reclaim that as an assist as it bounced off him and went into the path of Schick. But yeah, what can you say? He obviously saw that it was on. I don't know what the Scottish goalkeeper was doing. He was far too far out of his own area. Yeah. There's really no need to be that far out of his area, but you can't take away from the quality of the strike. He hit it perfectly. when you saw it live, you knew it was a great goal. But when you saw the replay from behind the goal, it looks even better. It just curled in perfectly. And to be fair to Marshall, like he was pretty much back on his line. There wasn't a great deal of space for it to go, but it went there. And it's going to be the goal of the tournament for sure. I can't imagine a better goal than that, unless it's coming off of Raheem Sterling's bum in the final for England. That would feel better. But from quality, that was it is top quality. You can't get better than that.
Sign him up, HG. Do you think you've got to make a cheeky bid?
It's funny. Like I remember 18 months ago, he was signed on loan by Leipzig. I think he was in Italy, maybe at Roma. And I just thought that was a really good deal to get him on loan. I was surprised that they were able to do it. But I was even more surprised that they didn't sign him permanently. I'm not sure it was part of the deal, but he went to Leverkusen at the start of last season and has done pretty well there. I just feel that for him, again, while Kane is still around, strikers aren't going to want to come to Spurs. Certainly people like Schick who need games. So I think he's quite happy at Leverkusen, but maybe next summer, if Kane does decide to move on then, he might be an option. It's one of those things. He's a quality striker and can score all types of goals, and he'll just prove it probably again in the tournament.
Nick Dornan says the photo of the goalie jumping into his own net is hilarious. Yeah, I gotta say, it's something spectacular about a lob when the keeper literally cartwheels and tears into the net, and his sort of joints are suspended in midair by the goal net. Always looks spectacular, doesn't it? When was the last time you saw a goal like that? Was it probably Kane from the halfway line?
Probably. I don't think I really watched that preseason game. I guess I saw the highlights, but I haven't seen a goal like that live in a very, very long time. I remember, I think it was Dejan Stankovic scored a goal in a Champions League game for Inter Milan. I don't know how long ago that was, but it's a while ago, where he volleyed it from 45 yards out and it went into the net. And I stood up and applauded that, and I got pretty excited. I have nothing against Scotland, but that's a quality goal and it deserved applause from wherever you were watching it. So I did. I applauded in the pub where I was, because it just, I didn't want Scotland to lose. I want Scotland to do quite well.
Aside, I didn't either. I thought it would have set up a cracking match on Friday, for starters. But it's good. Potentially, it's going to cause us even more problems, isn't it? Because the Scots, this was already their cup final. This was their biggest moment in recent memory, and now you just know what's going to happen, don't you? What can we expect on Friday, HG, from Scotland? We'll do a preview before with details around formations and tactics. But what's a rough outline of what we can expect from Scotland on Friday? My opinion is they're going to be literally trying to tear our asses out. They're going to be all over everything for 90 minutes.
Tear our asses out. Okay.
Literally, it's a game of dodgeball or something where the loser dies, life and death. That's how I think they're going to approach it.
I say it's a good job it starts at after the watershed here. It's 9:00 in Austria, so we could get away with that. But Scotland today, in some areas they looked half decent. I wasn't impressed at all with their right wing back. I think it was number 2, O'Donnell. He really did look like a bit of a cart horse. But the rest of the side were, they really weren't that bad. And I say this, we are much better than the Czech Republic. We proved it in qualifying because we beat them. I just feel as if, Scotland on Friday night, it's like Spurs versus West Ham. You're going to have a situation where one side, it obviously means a lot more to them than it does to us. And England, rightly or wrongly, will probably feel they've got bigger fish to fry. So, I don't think England will lose, but it'll be like the game in Euro '96. For those of us that remember it, obviously Scotland got that penalty, and the penalty the ball moved just before he was about to strike the penalty, and David Seaman made the save, and within 30 seconds we'd scored at the other end. It might be one of those. If the good thing about Scotland is that you look at their side and you don't see a goal. You don't really see a goal scorer. It's going to be set pieces. It's going to be just kind of any kind of set play corners that they can use to kind of hurt England. And so it's really down to England to to be wary of that and just to understand the whatever strength Scotland have, but to understand them and work against them.
I've got to say, I thought Robertson was very impressive. I mean, he did what he does for Liverpool, really for Scotland today, but he's found impressive, wasn't he? Up and down, he had one of their best chances, didn't he? It was a nice shot, keeper turn it over. He looks a good player, doesn't he? And would I be right in saying the threat's going to come possibly from him down the left-hand flank?
I mean, he is the best player. I mean, he's the best quality player in their side. When they use him as a wing back, that's obviously good for them because I was surprised that Tierney didn't play today. I guess he's injured, but Tierney and Robertson down the left-hand side would usually work really well. I think Ryan Fraser and his pace could cause us some problems if he starts. I think Che Adams is probably a better striker than the guy who started for Scotland today. I can't remember who that was. Is it Dykes, the QPR guy?
Yeah,
I haven't seen much from him to make me think, okay, like you're gonna worry us. But Che Adams is Premier League, so you'd think that he has a bit more about him. But yeah, Scotland are. I mean, again, I say this: the Czech Republic were not great. I mean, they've got a few Premier League stars of their own with the West Ham boys, but they weren't an amazing side. They almost conceded an own goal, trying to lob his own keeper while he's trying to make a clearance. They've got mistakes in them, and so England should beat the Czechs quite easily. But when it comes to Scotland, with it being a derby, it's all bets are off. You just don't know what's going to happen. But you'd like to think that if our attitude is right, then the English side should have more quality and should go on to win the game.
So West Ham, but we don't want to see this season's West Ham, right?
No, we definitely don't want to see this. But David Moyes is probably a better manager than Steve Clarke, and West Ham obviously have a few better players. But yeah, look, I just think it's a good metaphor for the type of game that this will be. Like it means a lot more to Scotland probably, because I do feel that most English fans are thinking, okay, it's a game we have to play, but they're already looking to where we're going to qualify and who we might play in the next round. I'm doing that a little bit myself, and I just hope the players aren't thinking like that, and they are realising that this is a chance to not just beat Scotland, but to put yourselves in guaranteed in the next stage. Then you can maybe rest a few players for the Czech game if you want. So momentum is everything, and we need to make sure that we continue to get the results and hopefully play a little better each time.
Yeah, sure. I completely agree with you on that point, HG. Just in case you're just tuning in, you've just missed us talking about Scotland's annihilation today, and we are simulcasting today, multi-streaming. So we're live on Facebook and on YouTube. Please do, if you're watching us on Facebook for the first time, head over to our YouTube channel where you can find all our back catalogue of videos and other great content created by Cheeseheads for you. And do remember to like and subscribe. And if you're watching, do hit the like button. It really does help us out. Moving on then. Poland 1, Slovakia 2. I watched a little bit of this, HG. I didn't catch it all, but what I did see was the red card, I thought, changed the game, really. And Poland sort of looked like a threat after that point.
I mean, this is it. It was certainly the most important part of the game. It's probably the first shock, can we say that, of the tournament? Because I don't think many people had Slovakia to win the game.
Yeah.
We all know how good Lewandowski is, and so I think you kind of assume that the rest of the Polish team will be just as good. But I mean, Slovakia have got Skriniar, they've got Dubravka, they've got Marek Hamsik. These are all players that most football fans will have heard of. That they're no mugs. And as it was, they got a bit fortunate with the opener. Great to see the ball going off Chesney, because we all know how much he loves us.
See it.
You do love to see it, and he's got a habit of just having memorably bad instances in the Euros, whether it's being sent off or in the last one, I think he got injured in the first game. So that must be the hat trick of misfortune, surely. But like Slovakia, again, they weren't great. They played okay, but the sending off, especially for Poland to score within the first 30 seconds of the second half, you just thought, okay, the comeback is on. And the referee really did affect it, because I don't think it was a sending off. The second yellow was very, very soft.
Yeah.
And I mean, as Brandon, one of our patrons who's got a Polish heritage, he said that this midfielder, the one who was sent off, is the only one who ever really shows up for international duty. So his heart sank because he knew he wouldn't be available for the Spanish game. I think Slovakia must be thrilled with what happened. The game, I do believe, was quite even, but for the last half an hour, Slovakia, obviously with the numerical advantage, were in the best position to strike, and it was Skriniar that got the goal, a really good finish from the centre half. So
won it just.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he took that ever so well, and I didn't realise who it was. If I'm honest, I'm not that familiar with with Slovakia's national side until they popped up. Oh, Skriniar! Oh, that's what he looks like. The guy we should have found.
Yeah. The guy with Skriniar on his back made it obvious that it was Skriniar.
That was a clue. To be honest, that was a clue. You know how astute the caller is. A disappointing start for Poland. Do you think they're going to get out of that group, HG, now?
Well, I mean, they've got the two more difficult games to come, but the fact that Spain, Sweden finished goalless clearly helps Poland, because they only really need to get above one of them, obviously, to finish third and hope that it's good enough to make it through. But they wouldn't. I mean, having a player sent off and losing your opening game, it's not a great start. I think they're good enough. Spain disappointed me a little bit tonight, so I think it's possible for Poland. If Lewandowski can get free and get the chances that Poland will create, then maybe they'll get some goals. But yeah, it's a tough one to predict, because I think outside of Spain, the other three teams in Group E are pretty much the same. There's very little to choose from.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. If we move on then and talk about Spain and Sweden, so 0-0. I thought it was a bit of a boring game, if I'm being perfectly honest. That's probably the match I saw the most of, and I nearly fell asleep in the second half. Sweden missing a bit of Zlatan magic up top. Spain not the force they once were, HG, because they didn't really look like creating that much, neither side.
Yeah. I mean, Spain are definitely not the same team that obviously won the World Cup and the Euros twice. That was a once-in-a-lifetime side. Most of them played together at either Barcelona or Real Madrid, and there were very few who really weren't from those two teams. This side seems to be from various teams. I mean, like Laporte's at Man City and Pau Torres is at Villarreal, so they don't have the same cohesion probably in their 11. But again, I was surprised with the 11 that they picked. Thiago didn't play, or didn't start the game at least. And I know that they've had some issues with COVID. I think the captain Busquets got it, and so he's out for at least maybe one more game, just because he has to isolate. It's rough for them, but yeah, I looked at that Spanish team and thought on their day they could beat anyone, but how often will that day come? And today they had enough chances to beat Sweden. They couldn't get it done. Weirdly enough, Sweden may have had the better chances in the entire game, despite the fact not having many. I think it was Marcus Berg missed an absolute sitter from Asimovic range. I mean, just 5-6 yards out, spooned it over the bar. But yeah, so it's tough because we know from history that Spain and Italy are usually the two teams that kind of start slowly and then they get motoring. Italy didn't do that in their opening game, but for Spain to be a bit lethargic, I guess we should have expected it. It's not a great result for them, but they would still see themselves as favourites to get the points they need to maybe even win the group.
Well, a few comments coming in. So Nicholas Svensson, hi Nicholas, regular viewer. What did you think? What did you both think of us tonight? I'm happy with the point. We could have stolen it if Berg had his shooting boots on, which is pretty much what you just described. Not bad for 15% possession. I thought it was Pete Mourinho. If you'd have snuck a goal, then that's what it would have been. Any other comment on that, HG?
Just to say that the striker Alexander Isak is clearly very, very good. 15% possession it may have been, but anything that Sweden did in front of goal was down to him. Hit the post in the first half, I think that was, and set up Berg for the chance that Nicholas refers to. Like Sweden, they always knew that playing Spain was going to be difficult. I think they even had Spain in their qualification group, which I don't like to see. I don't like countries playing teams that they'd already played in qualification. It feels a bit of a it's like playing Manchester City in the Champions League. Like, you don't want to do that because you play them all the time.
Sure.
But yeah, like Sweden, it's a great point. Gives them maybe the platform that they need, and they'll be, I think, relatively confident that they can go and beat Slovakia.
Okay. Neo's comment: Spain need a striker. Morata was shocking. Phil Ambrose replies: they need Fernando Llorente.
Yeah.
And a good stat there from Paul Muir. Hi, Paul. How you doing? Andy Robertson created 6 chances against Czech Republic. That's the most at any other from any other player at Euro 2020, even though it's 2021 so far. I'm pedantic. David Harris says best performance at a European competition since ABBA. Like it. Neo touched on that young Swedish forward looks quality. And there you go. Here's another one. Sweden was playing a flat pack 4. Brilliant.
Gosh.
I mean, that's the level we're at. Thanks for that.
So we've got ABBA jokes, IKEA jokes. What's left? Swedish chef, Swedish meatballs, Swedish fish, maybe. But
that's the only reason I go to IKEA. So that's my sister's cheap napkins and Swedish meatballs. It's a winning combination. So I wouldn't touch anything else there. I'm going to leave my thoughts about IKEA there. Mr. Weaverman says, "What do you think about the home advantage for the big teams? By the big teams, I suppose you mean like England, etc." Yeah, HG, what's your thoughts on that?
It is strange when you think about the fact that, like, obviously England get all 3 games at home, Scotland get 2 at home, which means that Croatia and the Czech Republic are at a massive disadvantage in their own group just because they have to deal with home advantage in every game. Only when they play each other is it kind of like, oh, this is novel. And the Germans, it could really help the Germans because they're in a tough group, but they get all 3 games at home. The Hungarians that get 2 games at home, which will obviously give them a boost for when they play the big teams. I like the idea of this kind of Euros, like bringing it around Europe. I don't like playing games in Baku, but it is a bit odd. It would almost be better if they just said, look, I don't know how they could do this, but almost pick the venues once the draw had been done. You looked at England, Scotland, and you thought, okay, well, like obviously maybe Paris would be a good place to do that because it's close to both teams and they've got a big stadium.
Sure.
This is clearly probably nonsensical and not really possible, but I liked the idea of it. But obviously, with the fact that England have a massive advantage with the games being at Wembley, the semi-finals and final there too, if they get that far. So I don't know. I'm a firm believer in almost saying the World Cup is in 3 countries always, right? It's like Mexico 1 year, and then maybe Italy the next, or something where we all know what's going to happen and we know that the infrastructure is there. To do what we've done now, especially in COVID times, you do kind of think, did it really need to happen? Couldn't we have all gone to, even played the whole tournament in England? I think there were suggestions that should have happened, and I suspect that might have been a better tournament. But I think it's the Swiss side. They have to fly all the way to Azerbaijan for their first game. Then they've got a pretty short trip to Rome for the second, and then all the way back to Azerbaijan for the third. That's just not right. They qualified, and they shouldn't.
It does seem very strange. It's a strange setup. Phil Ambrose says it works quite well for COVID, but format is a bit flawed. Greg Anderson says, I much prefer a single host nation, creates a much better atmosphere. I understand that kind of like you can have the party zone and you sort of camp out in a country for a week, can't you? Or 2 weeks holiday or however long you're there for. So, I take all those points on board.
It's like if I was rich and Swiss, then I'd have gone. I mean, like most Swiss people are. I'd have gone to Azerbaijan for a week's holiday and watched 2 games. It's just a shame that the middle game, probably the biggest game against Italy, is in Italy. So they're at a disadvantage there too. I understand the idea of it, but I think they went way overboard. Why Azerbaijan was included? I mean, clearly it was for financial incentives / reasons, but it doesn't have the fans in mind. And like I think everyone, like if it's in one country, like all of Europe descends on that country to watch these teams. It's a massive party atmosphere, and like I know that obviously COVID would have made that difficult this time around, but. I'd like to see it go back to a one country system. I don't know where the next Euros are going to be held or if it's been decided yet, but yeah, I don't want to see it in, what was it, 10 different countries or something stupid like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Neo just said the caller's dropped his wallet. That did make me smile. That's not me. I tell you, it's my phone actually. Brand new iPhone 12 Pro Max actually. Moving on. Tomorrow we've got some more games.
Mm-hmm.
Fiesta of football continues, and we've got probably the biggest game in the tournament so far, haven't we? France versus Germany tomorrow evening. That should be a cracker, shouldn't it? HG, an absolute cracker.
Yeah, I suspect we'll see a lot of BBC clips of the '82 semi-final that they like to bring out whenever France play Germany, because of when Battiston was clattered by the German goalkeeper, and that helped Germany get to the final of the World Cup that year. But yeah, they're two massive sides. Everyone thinks that France are the favourites. That's the tag they have to bear. Germany at home, no matter who they play, they won't make it easy. So it is one of those games that if both sides really decide to go for it, you could have an instant classic. But it could just be a very, very boring, staid game where the Germans are good enough to keep the ball away from the French, because they are. I mean, the Germans are, despite their reputation right now, they are a very good side. It's not going to be an easy one to pick, but yeah, it's the late evening kickoff. I think everyone will be at home. The food will have been eaten and the beers will be on the table, and we'll all enjoy it, because you want to see big games. Like as much as Poland-Slovakia wasn't a bad game today, there's very little riding on it for the average fan in the UK. Same with the Austria-North Macedonia game. Like obviously that meant more to me than it would do for most people. And we want to see big teams knock out football, and with the Euros in its current state of 24 teams, it's tough to find that. But we hope for a good game at least.
And there's also Hungary-Portugal tomorrow, which is not a bad game either, is it? I think especially Hungary at home, aren't they, in front of a semi-packed crowd? So
yeah, I think the restrictions in Hungary are actually pretty not strict. So there should be a number of thousand there. But I think actually one of my friends here in Vienna, I think, has tickets, so he's going. But I think Hungary, their best player isn't fit, isn't in the squad. It's going to be a tough ask, because we know Portugal on their day can beat anyone, and they've got a fantastic squad this time around. I think the two countries played each other in the last Euros, and it finished like 3-3. So if we get a game like that, that would be a classic. But I suspect Portugal will win quite comfortably, even though it is in Hungary.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's it. 2 games tomorrow, HG. No third game.
Yeah,
it's first time, isn't it?
It is. It's just 2 because they're the only two. That's the only group that hasn't played yet. So I suspect it would mean that if Italy or Turkey played in the next game, then their opponent would have only had 3 days rest. So they had to kind of wait. But I think from Wednesday on, it goes back to three games a day. So it's it's nice though, because sometimes 3 feels too much. But I guess tomorrow we know we get home from work and the games are there.
5
we don't
and 8.
have to worry about anything. Yeah, 5 and 8 for you guys.
Work. You finish about 2 in the afternoon.
I do. I finish very early, but that's why I'm a teacher. School finishes, so I go home. There's no need to hang around when school's closed. But I definitely have an advantage. I realise that most people, especially in the UK, like here, it's 6 o'clock at night, so you're home, right? You are home from work at 6. Everyone is. So
school's out for summer.
Yeah, being on Central European time has its bonuses. It really does. Good
stuff. Well, we're going to move on and talk a little bit about Spurs now. I think that's all the European stuff done.
Yeah.
Spurs news, a couple of bits for you today, HG. So, and they're good news. They are good news. So
I'm going to be excited about this, am I? This will be good. Go on.
I think you will. Sissoko to Napoli.
Sissoko to Napoli, yes. Absolutely. It's a lovely place to live, Musa. Napoli is great, very good pizza. Who doesn't want to play in the Diego Maradona Stadium? That would be incredible. So it would be a nice place for Sissoko to retire to, because let's face it, that's what he'd be doing.
Yeah.
So good luck to him if he gets it, because it would be a nice move for him, but a better move for the club. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've got to get rid of Sissoko. I mean, he's been a drag on the clubs for years. I think he's had about 2 decent seasons. He pretty much handed Liverpool the Champions League on a silver platter by being a bell end in the first minute or the third minute, whatever it was. Ruined everyone's trip, including our legendary founder, Aaron Jolly, who travelled like 8,000 miles for that game, only to see Sissoko ruin it after 2 minutes. It's high time he moved on. He's not offered anything for a long time. And some comments coming in. Neo Sissoko retired last season, didn't he? Alexander, bye-bye Sissoko. Sweaty Cockerel, I've got the car running. I'll take him myself if necessary. There's not that much love for Sissoko, it's fair to say. And I've always been an ironic chanting almost Sissoko, to be honest. I think not only did he cost us the cup final, but he's just generally a talentless workhorse in midfield. He's not what you need in a team that's going to challenge top 4 season in, season out. Am I being a bit harsh, HG? Tell me I'm wrong.
I think you're being a bit harsh by just always referring to the Champions League final, but the rest of it I think is pretty much spot on. 5 years at the club, yeah. The best thing he's done is hoof it upfield, where we finally got the goal in the last minute in Amsterdam. Yeah, it's he's 32 in the summer. It's time, right? He got 5 years out of us. I think it's time. It has to be time. So I've got nothing against Musa. I think he always gave his all, but I could do that. And so I want to see more quality, and that I think is where Sissoko was always quite lacking. Depending on whatever system we played, he was a trier, and that's all. That sounds like an insult. I don't mean it as one. But I just think it's time. So if he can get someone if we can get someone to take on his wages that we don't have to subsidize, that would be incredible. But I suspect it might be that we just either we loan him out to help get him off the books, or to open up a space in the squad. But we have to be thinking that the extension to the contract that we gave him was a mistake, because he has to go.
Pochettino, another reason why Poch had to get fired. And then the second one, I'm not sure whether you'd like this even more, but Aurier looks a done deal to PSG. So rumours are he's had a medical, and it's just the ink's just waiting to be dry on the contract. What do we think about that, HG? I mean, if we'll come on to Fonseca in a minute, because obviously he's going to be announced this week, we believe, although we've said that about so far Pochettino and about Conte, so I'll hold my breath a little bit longer. But Fonseca's teams generally play with high wing-backs, don't they? A lot goes through the full-backs. We're clearly saying that Aurier can't fulfill that role for us anymore.
I think the Aurier deal is really contract-based. He's only got a year left. We probably want to move on from him. I think he probably wants to leave. He's been linked with other clubs. It feels like every summer, really, for the last 2 or 3 years. He's never really settled as first choice. I suspect that PSG is a really good move for him. But even if he's back up at PSG, I think he's quite happy with that role. It's a club that he knows, that he likes.
Yeah.
I think he came out and said that he's done his time in the Premier League. He's kind of experienced it. He wants to go back. And it would be a really good deal for Spurs, because PSG, I think, are going to pay half decent money for him. So if it works out for everyone, because it would be for everyone, like we would like to move on, he would like to move on, and PSG have more money than sense, then great. But I definitely think, and I will say this, Serge Aurier has been a better servant to Tottenham than Moussa Sissoko. And it's not because Sissoko handled the ball. It's just because...
Controversial.
I don't think so. I just think that Aurier was a better player than people gave him credit for. And I just think he's been asked to do things that has never been his game.
He's also got a lot of attitude, though, HG, hasn't he? I mean, do you not think he's got a bit of attitude about him? And he's a bit of a dick generally. He was always in trouble at PSG. He's had lots of run-ins at Spurs with management, by the sound of things. He's found himself constantly on the naughty step. A bit of a dick sums him up, I think, for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I just think like he may be unable to say his feelings in maybe the most politically correct way, but he's got passion for what he does. And for a lot of times, Spurs have never really had that.
HG. He's like me then.
Yeah, but that's not always a bad thing, is it, Caller? I mean, are you telling me it's always a bad thing to be like you?
No, true that. Paul says Musa has never made mistakes that Serge has. No, you're right, Paul, because Musa made one that cost us the Champions League final. Serge
And
never.
Sissoko's been sat on the bench for most of his time at Spurs, whereas Aurier really hasn't. When he's been fit, he's often played. Yeah, look, I understand that Serge has made mistakes. He does make mistakes. Every player will make mistakes. But Sissoko, you can't make mistakes if you're not picked.
I love this. Cal Alexander's been referring to me as Leon all the way through the broadcast. I'm not Leon. I'm Caller. Leon's an anti-Levy guy. I'm neutral, just for the record. To be fair, lots of commentary. But I think if we get those two players out of the club, that's a good start, isn't it, for the new director of football?
I think so. I mean, that's what I would do. So I'm okay with it. These players are not really going to be the future of Spurs. I think I've said this on so many videos now, but that's important to me. If we want to build the next good Spurs team, the next great Spurs team, then we have to build with younger pieces that can grow together. And Serge and Sissoko, they just aren't that.
Paratici on a roll already. He's only been in the job 2 days. Who's next out the door for you, HG? Go on, say it. I just want to hear you say it. If you don't, David Harris will. Lamela, please leave.
do you know what? Like his wasn't the first name that came to mind. If I'm honest, I started to think about the centre backs, because I have a feeling that one or two of those will go as well. But yeah, Lamela it's overdue. It's been overdue for most of my married life, and I've been married for 7 years. It needs to happen. Thank you for your service, Eric, but please bugger off. Just go somewhere else. I don't really care where it is. But a contract is a thing. His age is a thing. He's not going to play every game. We want to have we talk about youngsters like Skip and Sessegnon and Jack Clark and a whole bunch of ones that are in the youth team. We all want to see them get chances. They're not going to do that if Lamela's here. Lamela might be better than all of them right now. In fact, I'm sure he is. But
he did score the Premier League goal of the season.
He did, and that he will take home. And I don't know. That was a beautiful goal. I mean, really, the one goal this season that took my breath away. I think the diving header that Kane scored was another one where I just thought, wow. But the Lamela one it deserved to be goal of the season, because to even think about attempting that is crazy, let alone having the ability to pull it off and to find the far corner. So, I'll give Lamela his credit for that, but please go and do it somewhere else.
Anywhere else, yeah.
Well, but he's not going to play often for Spurs. I mean, I think that's a fair point. And we need to, if our squad players need to be younger so they can grow.
He's not fit enough for Spurs. That's the thing. Whenever I believe Lamela is a talented player. I always have done. He's got oodles of talent. He frustrates everybody because he wastes most of it and he spends half his life injured. So whenever you see him and he gets on, he does the same thing every year. He gets on like a roll of 2, 3, 4 good games, and you think, oh, okay, it's like having a new signing because he was sick note all last season. But then what happens is the same history repeats itself. He gets an injury in his hip or his knee that no physio's ever seen before, and he's out for 6 months. And it's just like that. That's my frustration with Lamela. I'm a Lamela fan. I think technically he's a gifted player, and you watch him on the ball and he excites you and he runs himself into the ground for the team. All qualities I absolutely admire. But the guy can't stay fit. So unfortunately... And let's face it, he's a bit of a liability when it comes to giving away free kicks and things like
that. I've always said, finding skillful players is not that difficult, right? You can find a skillful player in a park sometimes, and Billy Wingrove, the famous Spurs freestyler, is clearly a skillful footballer, but the ability to do it on a pitch when you've got 11 people trying to stop you and making good decisions, that's what sets people apart. Obviously their work ethic matters and their dedication to the craft matters, but you have to have it up here. And as far as I'm concerned, Lamela never really has had it up there. And so that's why I was always kind of not against him, but why I just thought he wasn't good enough. because if you gave him the chance and if it was a 3-on-2 and he had the ball, you didn't trust him to make the right choice. And I never have. And I want footballers that where I do trust them to make good choices. I do trust them to find the corner with quality rather than luck or Rabonas. So like Lamela, like as I said, we're all grateful that you've been at the club for 8 seasons, but it's time to go. I sound like Claude.
That grateful was so passive aggressive. I've never heard anything like it. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
So, and obviously the other thing is we're waiting. There's going to be a big live episode of the Cheese Room on YouTube when Fonseca officially gets the job. HG, we're assuming that he will. We've got literally 5 minutes left, I think, of this stream. So let's just talk very quickly. Fonseca, I think Spurs fans have gone through a myriad of emotions, it's fair to say, since the season ended in terms of our rush to find a new manager, or not so much of a rush. As we've been knocked back by Conte and Pochettino in succession and ended up with the man that Mourinho replaces. The apathy was there for all to see. If you just opened up your Twitter account, and I use apathy very loosely, pure hatred coming out of the club, from a lot of people. But I've looked into Fonseca, and I don't think he's actually that bad an appointment, HG. I mean, he plays, am I right in saying he plays attacking football, lots of width, probably plays more the Tottenham way than definitely than Mourinho. And certainly sort of if you see his Roma team pressing, they're a bit like Pete Poch at times. I do think he's going to bring a bit of excitement back. Defensively, they've been a concern. But then when you look at Roma's team, he's been doing it with a team that's nowhere near as good as quality of player as Spurs, and they've had injuries all season, haven't they? I mean, am I just getting, I suppose, rose-tinted spectacles on because I'm wanting him to be a good manager for us, or is Fonseca someone who actually can bring us forward, take us forward?
Look, I think Fonseca will be an improvement on Mourinho in many ways. Obviously, he's not won the trophies that Mourinho did, but I just think that you're right, he is more Tottenham. But it still, and it will always feel a little bit like an arranged marriage right now, because like we've got to make the best of it. It may not be the ones that we wanted, but it's the one that we've got. So let's see what we can do and how we can make things work. And as fans, our job is relatively simple. Our job is to support the team. His job is to get them playing well. His job is to improve them as individuals and as a team. But our job, if we're lucky enough to go to the stadium, is to just support that team for 90 minutes and to get behind them, even if things aren't going so well. So, yeah, like we've all done the research. We're all learning about him and thinking maybe it's not going to be as bad as perhaps we would have thought. But that's okay. I just feel that we have to give him a chance. To me, the biggest thing this season has always been about sorting the squad out. It's not really been about the coach. Obviously, we needed to do that, but those of us that are in the Patreon group will know that probably my first choice is a coach that hasn't managed for a couple of years. Like Rangnick would to be involved, or Glasner at Wolfsburg, I think is a really good coach. But, he's qualified for the Champions League once and never won anything outside, I think, the Austrian second division. So it's like you have to base it on various things. But Fonseca has clearly gone places and won stuff. He wasn't a terrible manager for Roma. I think we can say that. It's just a question of what can he do with the players that we have? Do the players that we have really suit his system? If they do, that makes life easier. If they don't, then we're in for a period of upheaval over the summer, and we hope that it all comes together quite quickly. If it doesn't, it may well be very similar to Pochettino's first season, where we finished, I think, 6th. And at the time, none of us thought we were going to see the start of what we saw for the next few years.
Yeah.
And so we just have to hope that, whether it's like David Moyes at West Ham, that, within 6, 12, 18 months, you start seeing an improvement and you start seeing the players being more comfortable with what they're being asked to do. Because, for the last 18 months, we haven't seen that. We've seen players struggle to make good decisions and not really know how to get out of the problems that are set. and hopefully Fonseca is more of a coach and can do that for us.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he's certainly going to be more supportive of the players around him than Mourinho was. I don't think he'll throw him under a bus like that. And I've watched a few of his press conferences back, and he's quite an interesting character. He's quite a character. I think is the phrase. So we'll put maybe a little bit of personality and heart back into the club. He has got quite spooky eyebrows, though. I've got to be honest.
Yeah,
dark, Dracula.
Yeah. There is something that's a bit off-putting about him, but like I think I've said this before. Short hair Fonseca, I like. Long hair Fonseca, this kind of floppy. It's like he's changed his hairstyle based on where he lived, and so he went to Italy and tried to become like a Salvador Dali and this Italian artistry. And Dali wasn't Italian, I don't think, but yeah, that kind of idea. Yeah, I hope he gets a short back and sides and changes his name to Robert. And my name's Paul. Just call me Paul. Rather than Paolo, but you have to be hopeful. Like it's an arranged marriage. We have to go into it hoping for the best and willing to do our part, because if we don't, everything will struggle. If the fans aren't there, if the fans are somehow more focused on Levy than they are on the team, that's going to hurt everything. I understand focusing on Levy because clearly he's made some awful decisions over his entire tenure at the club. But if you're in the stadium, your focus should not be on Levy; it should be on supporting the team, and that's how I see it. And
in fairness, there's a lot of noise on social media right now, Levy out, etc., etc. And there was a minute protest at the stadium. Obviously, there was a lot of coverage of it on certain YouTube channels and Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of it. But the reality of things is, when you go to the games, I was there at the last game. There wasn't really much discord. There was a few guys yelling Levy out at one point, but nothing major. And obviously I go all the time, and I'm sure I'll be backed up by other season ticket holders that sort of say, well, even when times have been shit, there's been no mass protest or movement to kick Levy out.
Protesting is fine, right? Like protesting, I have nothing against it. Like clearly, Levy needs to know how the fans feel. I mean, I'm sure he knows, but he needs to be told repeatedly by us that we don't like some of the decisions that have been made. However, inside the stadium for those 90 minutes or 2 hours or whatever it is, the focus is on making sure that the team get the support that they need, because we've all seen it. Like teams that have good support behind them will get better results than teams that don't. To me, that's relatively logical. So, I hope that we can get behind Fonseca. I hope that we can, the feeling that we had last summer when we signed all those players and thought we had a good squad and everyone was positive for the new season. Like that's what I want to see at the beginning of August. That's what I want to see from Spurs. We're going to have a lot of games, but we start afresh, and given how bad we were under Mourinho, starting afresh sounds great. I'm excited.
Likewise. Well, we'll leave it there. Cheeseheads, thanks very much for joining us. If you've watched us for the first time on Facebook, please go over to our YouTube page, where we really appreciate you to subscribe and click the little bell. Just imagine it's Daniel Levy. And do like the videos we do. We will try and get more content out. We will certainly we will do these sort of 10 p.m. Pretty much every night over the next couple of weeks, whilst the Euros are on, and that will be in addition to our Fonseca signs YouTube video, which I'm absolutely certain will happen anytime this week, maybe.
Yeah, here's hoping. I mean, I learned that Fonseca is like Portuguese for a dry well. The well has run dry. Let's get Fonseca in and start the process of replenishing and irrigating and all those water-based puns you can think of. But we have reasons to be cheerful. We really do. And Mourinho's gone. It can't get any worse than that. We can't have a manager who's going to fall out with half the team randomly and then just play players randomly because there's no one left. Players that he hadn't played for half the season suddenly were playing every game. That's not a way to run anything, let alone a football club of Spurs' size. And so, let's be positive. I mean, we can do that, right? It is possible.
I think so. final thought for the day. Behind me, I was thinking this when you were talking about the last time we played Scotland. Behind me,
Right.
I don't know if you can see this. There's Gazza's signed shirt on, and this you probably can't quite see unless you're watching it on a 50-inch TV. Is Gazza getting the dentist's chair? And I want to see some of that from the boys on Friday. So in the meantime, enjoy your summer's days in Britain or wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.